Gordon, what's in this box?
Hey, we haven't done one of these in a while. It is a weird motherboard. I'm going to say weird, or probably not fair to call it weird, but it is a very different motherboard. This is Asus's brand new Maximus XI Gene, which I'm saying is weird because it's not mini ITX. It is not ATX. And what is this? This must be the, yeah.
What's that?
It is, oops, sorry about that camera. Maximus ROG. Of course, you got Republic of Gamer, Maximus XI Gene. This is different. You probably have not seen something like this. It's a like micro ATX, but it's not micro ATX. No, and I'm not saying mini ITX. Of course, mini ITX would be about this small. This is like a micro ATX motherboard, but you'll notice something very different. There ain't enough PCIe lanes.
Yeah. What the hell?
Asus says, you know what? Nobody really wants to buy these micro ATX boards for running multi GPUs because nobody runs multi GPUs anymore. So we are going to take that and try to push this like micro ATX, but only a single by 16 slot. Chipset here is a Intel Z390 chipset, so supporting of course all of the 8th and 9th gen parts. The bigger motherboard over a mini ITX lets you support a lot of wattage for the CPU. This is a 10-phase power supply, they say, and you should be able to get, it's a little easier to do than a mini ITX board. And because it's micro ATX, you get to run 4 M.2s. There's a couple M.2s hidden under here.
Oh, nice.
And there's also, let's see, the Asus. If you're already tuned out, stick around because there's something even cooler about this motherboard. This is the, I think you're calling it U.2. This lets you put a couple of M.2 drives in here and then put it into the, oh, that's right, they're calling it DIMM.2. Of course, this has been out for a little bit, but this is for storage, so then you can put additional M.2s into this riser card.
Huh.
There's 2 more here, but check this out. This is the thing that's other cool. You probably have not noticed it. What is missing from this motherboard? Memory slots. Micro ATX is usually big enough to support up to 4 memory slots. Mini ITX, you get 2 usually. Micro ATX, they jam on those other 2. But check this out. This is, oh mother, look at this. We got the big ones here.
Whoa!
This is a 32 gigabyte DDR4. I believe this is, let's see which one this is. This is, can't see it, 3200. 32 gigs of DDR4.
That is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. Why is it so huge? Because this is like a 2-story building. Traditional DDR4 modules, you get 8 on one side, you get 8 on the other side. You can't stack them really yet. There are some 32 gigabit chips, I think, that Samsung has announced. To get around that, they basically stack it. There's actually 2 rows on here. You know what? Should we pause? Can we just pause? Let me get a screwdriver. Let's open up and look at this module.
All right.
We're going to open up this double capacity DIMM. Again, 2 layers. Let's see if we can see both layers here. I have seen pictures on the internet of this. This says Zodiac. I don't know who's making this. I thought we were actually getting the smaller ones, but let's hope we can pull off this heat spreader. It's RGB on top. A 32 gigabyte DDR4 3200 module. This again is double capacity DIMM. Come on off. Oh, don't tell me. Is there something else you got to do? It may be glued on there. I don't want to force it. Wow, this.
Don't break it.
Heat spreaders are on there pretty good. I don't want to force this because I'm going to have to send it back, but I don't want to break it. Oh, I wonder if you pull both sides? Yeah. Maybe if I warm the module up, it'll come off. But no, that's not coming off.
Maybe unscrew the other side?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think basically the thermal pad is really grabbing onto the modules here. It's a bummer. I was really hoping to show you. You should be able to see there should be 32, let's say 8, what, 8, 8. Yeah, there should be 32 chips on here in order to get to 32 gigs, I think. This, of course, double capacity. Asus has worked with memory modules. I think G-Skill, Zodiac is the other, to make memory modules that let them cram in more memory onto these super tall modules, so you can run it in 2-slot boards.
Let's put it in the board and see how tall it is.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
They are big. It's huge. One advantage Asus says is like, hey, if you're into your extreme overclocking, it's actually a lot easier to get to very high extreme memory overclocks when there's fewer buses. So only 2 slots is actually easier to get to than, say, 4 slots or 8 slots. So this, if you're into your extreme overclocking, does work a little better. I think it's just kind of cool. Look, so you have micro ATX with 2 slots getting to 64 gigs. So if you put your 9900K, you build your pure RTX 2080 Ti, all hater edition, you can get 32 gigs in a micro ATX board. You can get 4 M.2s, and there's a couple other things I do want to point out with this board. Very different. Instead of getting usually 2x16s, you only get a single by 16. They put this by 4, they said, in order to help cooling, because it's not going to be sandwiched under the card. And also they flipped all the connectors from the motherboard, 90-degree angles.
Huh.
It's pretty cool, huh?
That's cool. Never seen that.
There's actually support for, I think, let me get this right, bits power flow support. So if you're running your water pump, you can actually monitor it with the motherboard, with this motherboard. And let's try to find the node connector. I'm very interested in the node connector because where is it? Must be this one. I think that's the node connector. No. Where is the node connector? It is, where's node? It should just say node somewhere. Oh, it's got to be down here somewhere. It's one of this. That's USB. I think it's actually this one then, huh? Oh yeah, this is the node connector. So this is Asus being very cagey about this, but this connector lets you talk to other components. There's actually a power supply maker that lets you plug into this, and then you can do all the monitoring and control apparently from your motherboard. Probably ties into your Asus utilities. I believe that you can do those OLEDs. There's NZXT, or not NZXT, gosh, who's doing it? Inwin is actually doing a front OLED panel on their case that lets you display controls by plugging into the node connector, I believe. Just like the little OLED panels that Asus is putting in some of its water blocks these days. There's no full specs. There's a lot of hardware. We don't know what else is going to support this node stuff, which I think is cool. If you want to go way back, NVIDIA tried it with enthusiast system architecture. Asus is probably going to try to do this. The only problem with that, of course, is if Asus is going to do it, Gigabyte and MSI are going to want to do it, and they're going to want to do it in their own way. So we're going to end up with all the non-spec specs like we do have with RGB. But this is pretty cool. Micro ATX, awesome. Yeah, I mean that is like, it's like a mini, it's almost like a mini, it's a big mini ITX board, because Micro ATX has always gotten you, 2 PCIe slots, 3, you could do up to 3, but people aren't taking advantage of it. Asus says we're just going to take all that extra real estate, make a big ass, badass motherboard.
Yeah, let me see the.
Let's look at the back. They say we also put a crap load of USB ports, so you don't have to run a hub. It's got 802.11 AC, but of course the really special sauce is this double capacity DIMMs that they have worked with Asus. There's only 3 motherboards that work with it, all of them made by Asus. All of these built to spec. Very different. Of course, Samsung has announced that it has higher density memory chips coming out, so this may not really be needed. You might be able to do this with fewer chips eventually, if the cost ever comes down. But you gotta hand it to Asus. That's putting a little bit of work in there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And it looks cool because your module's bigger. But how are you gonna get, this is definitely water cooled. Your air cooler's not gonna clear that. So we're gonna fire this up and see how this works later.
Yeah. Thanks, Gordon.
All right, check it out later.